Hello, sorry I'm late, girls. I was running just a few minutes behind, so I'm on really quickly. This is just going to be really short and sweet. After Gigi Girl Talk last night, I got inbox from a young lady who was asking me the question of, do all men cheat? She's very concerned. She's been in some situations where she has been cheated on. Hi, Elsie. Oh, let me go invite some people. Hold on, guys. I forgot. Hold on. So that people know I'm on. I forgot to do this. Hold on one second. Okay. I think. And this is going to tie into our girl talk from last night. This is really crucial because this all ties in. Hey, Renee. Hi, Lucretia. So this ties in. So she said she wasn't going to be able to watch it live. So what I was saying, Renee, is that last night I had mentioned that if I didn't answer a question on Girl Talk last night, that you could inbox me and ask me a question. So a young lady had to inbox me last night and asked the question about, do all men cheat? She's very concerned. She's been through some situations where the men were being cheaters, not being committed. So I want to just address this really quickly. I know a bunch of people will catch it on replay. So first of all, it's not cheating if you're not in a committed relationship. That's number one. A lot of women have gotten their feelings very hurt when they're dealing with men, because that's one of the major changes in the 21st century, is that a man could be sleeping with you. He could even be living with you. And if he has not committed to you, if he has not distinctly, verbally, emotionally, physically committed to you, then honestly, it's not cheating. So in other words, if you're dealing with a man and he's getting all the benefits of dealing with you, in other words, sex and all of the, those wifey benefits that women love to give before you're even in a committed relationship, it's not cheating. Women have a very hard time with this because they'll be so hurt when they find out what he's doing. But at the end of the day, they didn't do enough due diligence in the beginning to really get clear on what are we doing? What is this? And unless a man has honestly committed and made a commitment to you, not just because you feel like you guys go together, or you feel like he loves you, or you feel like this is a commitment. No, a real, true commitment. So unless you have that true commitment and that's your man, or unless you're married to him, it's not cheating. That's number one. I want to make that distinction right in the beginning, because I have a lot of clients that would come through the agency for matchmaking and coaching, and I would ask them about their previous relationships, and it would always be like describing these relationships, and they show me pictures of these men. And the more questions I asked, the more it became really clear to me, like, wait a minute, that wasn't your boyfriend. Like, I asked about specifically committed, monogamous, exclusively mutual relationships. And they start giving me these examples of these relationships they were in, but they weren't relationships. Those were situationships that you just assumed he was only seeing you because you were only seeing him. Not true. Women do this all of the time. And so for some of you, it's about really getting clear about that, to understand if you're dating him and he's dating other people and you guys aren't mutual, he's not cheating. He's not a cheater. He's not committed to you. Therefore, he's not cheating if he's seeing someone else or sleeping with someone else when you did not really make sure that you were really clear about what's going on. You didn't ask questions. You didn't require him to verbally commit to you. So that's not cheating. Okay, so in the instance of real cheating, since I've made that clear, okay, real cheating you're in a committed relationship, you verbally have committed to each other, you're exclusive in a relationship, this is your man, you're either in a mutually courting relationship, or you're engaged, or you're married. In those situations, yes, men cheat. A lot of men cheat. Yes, we know this, ladies, but do all men cheat? No. And the reason I can say this so strongly is because obviously I know lots of men who have never cheated and who don't cheat. I know a lot of really, really good men. There's a lot of really good men out here. The problem is, and this goes back to our discussion last night on Girl Talk, the problem is we are not picking those really good men. We are picking those small percentages, hot commodity guys, right? I mean, let's be real, girls. We're picking these men who don't have a good heart, or they are selfish, or they have so many options and so much temptation that these are the men that we look at, and then we're trying to say all men are dogs, all men are cheaters, but it's in the selection and our tendencies in the prototype that we tend to choose that gives us that feeling. And we have 3 men we dated and all 3 men cheated. But when you look back at the type of men you chose, exactly, Dana, not picking the right men. Because the type of men who don't cheat are not always the flyest dudes. They're not the flashy dudes. They're not the fine and super sexy dudes. They're not the dudes who are on social media trying to get attention from women, posting pictures every 2 seconds just like women do, right? Those are not the good dudes who are not going to cheat. Those men with all the muscles and the sexual chocolate, and the men you're looking at with all the style and flavor and swagger and the money and the nice cars, and that is that top tiny small percentage of super attractive men. And even when they're super attractive and they're broke, right, it still puts them in the small percentage of men who are super attractive. We know that's only 10% of the total male population, just for that one factor, super attractive, one factor. And if you start saying he's black, if he's this height, if he's got this type of smile, if he has this type of money and he drives this type of car, he has this type of charming personality, now you're talking about 1% of the population. And he's got education, and it's shrinking and it's shrinking. And now what you'll realize is you have a type, and your type is cheater. Wow, Rebecca, you're saying my type is cheater? Yeah, because if your type is in that top percentage of men, these men know who they are. They know that they are a hot commodity. They know that they get women easy. They were cheaters before you ever married them. They had a hard time just paying attention to you when they were even dating you, before you got pregnant, before he felt like the right thing to do was to put a ring on your finger. He was never faithful. He already had a cheating tendency, because that's who he is. And there's a distinct difference between the men who maybe cheated one time, because even as women, you could cheat one time and that still doesn't mean you're a cheater, right? Cheaters have patterns. People who are a certain type of way have patterns. So you might mess up one time. A man who messed up and cheated on his wife before, you don't know those circumstances. You don't know how she was treating him. You don't know what he was going through. You don't know how long it took for him to break down and become vulnerable to do that. You don't know what, you got to find out the patterns. You got to find out the nature. You got to find out, is this who he is, or is this something that happened in a certain circumstance? That's because anybody can cheat. Anybody can cheat. You put someone in a situation where their needs are not being met for a significant amount of time, they are vulnerable to the attention from someone on the outside. And that's just the truth, men and women. But if they are not someone who is habitually cheating, right, communicate. Definitely don't be afraid to dig deeper. Right. It doesn't mean that because he cheated one time on his previous wife that he's a cheater. No, sweetheart, that could have been you too. Because people get in situations and you don't know, it could have been 6 or 7 years and she was barely having sex with him and she's talking down to him and he's not happy and he's trying to hang in there and she's mistreating him. You just never know the circumstances. Am I excusing cheating? No, I'm not, because he could always just leave. And that's eventually what they tend to do, is leave because they're not happy. But at the end of the day, there's a distinct difference between good men who have a habit of being faithful, loyal, dedicated to their relationships and their commitments, responsible. And then there's men who are habitual cheaters due to their options, the temptations, their lack of self-control, their lack of willingness to control themselves, their lack of commitment to the women in their lives. They are habitual cheaters. And if you go back and you look at their history, and it's always women who don't do the due diligence, girls, right? You don't want to mess up and marry one of these jokers, because at the end of the day, I'm telling you, I'm going to share some insight with you. I meet so many women and they've got this ideal man in their mind. And it goes back to what we talked about on Girl Talk last night. Hi, Natasha. That small percentage of it guys, I call them the it men. They're like, it's all of that. He's the it guy, right? Tall, handsome, smart, money, all that stuff going on, like Mr. Gorgeous and Mr. Baller in my book, right? That percentage of men, right? They have a higher tendency to cheat. And so many women that I talk to have this prototype man that they're looking for, but they don't realize that those prototype men, that your type is actually cheater. All those things that you think are so crucial to have start putting him more and more and more into the category of cheater. And you just don't realize it because you don't think about it that way. Because at the end of the day, these men, and not to say that average Joe doesn't cheat. Yes, average Joe can cheat. But average Joe is also going to have patterns of cheating. He's going to be a habitual cheater. That, in other words, cheaters have a habit of cheating. I don't even consider someone who cheated once a cheater. Every person, and the thousands of single people and married people and people I've talked to over the years, there's a very, very distinct difference between cheaters and somebody who messed up or somebody that was just in a really bad situation. Very distinct difference. And I want to make that difference clear. If you meet a man and he opens up and he tells you that he cheated on his wife, don't feel like you have to totally say he's a bad dude. Oh, I can't be with him. He's a cheater. Find out the circumstances. Find out the details. Why did he cheat? What were the circumstances of the cheating? Was he happy? Was the relationship compatible? Should he have ever been married to her from the beginning, to begin with, right? Did he make a poor choice in a partner and he was trying to do the right thing and hang in there, but he'd made a poor choice, right? This happens to all of us, even you ladies on here. You know you've made some poor choices. And sometimes situations present themselves that play on those vulnerabilities, right? I have to be honest. Women don't necessarily make it very easy for men nowadays. That the men who aren't happy, the men who are struggling because they're in very unhappy relationships, the women are throwing themselves at men. Right? The women make it very easy. The temptation is so strong because women are out here being easy, being willing to sleep with married men, willing to deal with married men, willing to overlook the fact that he's even married, or better yet, not recognizing to say, wait, why is he so inconsistent? Why do things not add up? Why have I never been to his house? Right? Not doing their due diligence to recognize that this man might be married and I need to be careful. Women tend to make it very easy for men to cheat nowadays. Exactly, Renee, you lived it. So do all men cheat? No, they don't. But back to what I said last night on Girl Talk. You need to recognize if you have a type of man that you like that lends or tends to be a cheater. A lot of women are wanting those top shelf dudes, those it guys, the guys who are super sexy and fine and got it all together. And those men tend to be the ones who are it's the hardest for them to be monogamous. The men, do all men cheat? No. Are there a lot of good men who don't cheat? Yes. But those good men who don't cheat tend to be the very ones that you're overlooking. Going for the flashy guy, going for the guy looking for all the attention. Renee says, yeah, I run from personal trainers and models on my dating apps. Delete. Right. You have to recognize that if you are going to start dating somebody, Natasha says, I admit I just got divorced from one, right? Natasha, I was just thinking about you as I was saying that from what you've shared with me in our conversations, Natasha, I think you kind of have a type. And that type would probably tend to be cheater because those it guys like you and you like them. But it doesn't mean that they're loyal and faithful, right? And so at the end of the day, you've got to be able to recognize what is a good man? What are the signs of a good man? What are the habits of a good man, right? Natasha says, yep. And recognize your own patterns. Recognize that if you keep being in situations where you are consistently in relationships with cheaters, your picker is off. You're selecting the wrong men. It's not that all men are cheaters. It's that you're choosing cheaters. You're choosing cheaters. Why, Rebecca? Because you're being drawn to some certain characteristics that lend themselves to men who are not faithful. I'm just being honest, girls. You'll look the other way and turn your nose up at that simple country man who's hardworking and honest and loyal and faithful. And your eye, it's like the shiny ball syndrome, right? You're looking at the dude who's catching your eye, who's super sexy and it looks good in that suit and smells good. But you know what? He knows he looks good. He knows how he looks. He dresses like that on purpose, right? He knows how much attention he gets looking like that. And he's not doing it for just one woman. He's doing it for the attention of the masses. He's doing it for the attention from all the women that are trying to get at him. Somebody mentioned this about social media. I think it was you, Lisa. You came in and were asking that question about social media, about how she was dating someone and he, was always getting these inappropriate comments on his posts on social media from women who didn't know, or even if they did know he was in a relationship, it was disrespectful. Well, why was that happening? Because he's a playa. That's why it's happening. So even if secretly he's committed to you, his actions, his behavior show you he's not a faithful man. He's got cheater tendencies and cheater patterns. Men who like a lot of attention. Men who like to be in the limelight. Back to entertainers, musicians. It's a tendency, girls, right? Because it kind of almost goes hand in hand. Are there exceptions to any rule? Yes, girls, there are. Women get mad at me when I say, I'm too general. I'm not trying to stereotype girls, but it kind of goes hand in hand. We mentioned personal trainers. We mentioned artists, writers, comedians, entertainers, musicians, actors. Anything that really puts men in the limelight, men who seek attention. Well, and it's like I said on Lisa's post when she posted it about the guy that was getting all this attention on social media. I said, if the women are that bold to make those comments on a public page in the post comments, imagine what his inbox looks like. Because my husband, as handsome as he is, as tall as he is, we have zero issues with women getting out of hand. Zero issues with men trying to hit on me and flirt with me and making no inappropriate comments from men on my posts. Why? Because it's how I carry myself. It's how he carries himself. It's how we present ourselves to the public. There's nothing that say, hey, looky here, look at me. You don't see me with lots of posts where I'm looking provocative and trying to be sexy. You can be all covered up and be given sexy eyes, right? You can be literally, you don't even have to be naked as a woman with, and you could still have the come hither look, honey, in these selfie pictures. You can still be flaunting it, honey, with being covered up. I see married people on social media doing it all day long. And they're posting pictures and selfies, acting like it's so innocent. I'm just promoting my business, or I'm talking about this or that. But honey, you selling sex appeal all day long. But then don't be surprised if men are in your inbox. Because the spirit of something speaks so much louder than even the appearance. The spirit of it speaks. So men are on here and you know, and I see it. I see clear as day. I see married men doing this all the time on social media. Posing, it's all, you know, in their suit, and it's like they're trying to look like a model, and you know, the angle's just right, and they're looking really handsome. Well, you're not a model. So what's the point of you having these pictures? You're not selling anything from the picture. Is that suit jacket for sale? Are you selling that tie or something? Like, what is the point of this picture? You're not promoting a book. You're not promoting a company. You're not promoting a service. You just looking good for no reason. Like, okay, I get that. But if you start to see a pattern, if you feeling yourself today, cool. Because there's nothing like posting a picture and you love your outfit and you feel good about yourself. But if you see a man constantly posting on social media and it's like, look at me, I'm here, me with a cigar, me in the car, me in my suit, me on the beach, me here, me there, and he ain't even single, there's a problem. He's an attention whore, which tends to be that he is a whore behind the scenes. And y'all know who I'm talking about, right? Because these men be all up in the Facebook groups, all over Facebook, all up on Instagram. And believe me, if you see in all those comments on a public page, looking good, dude, looking good, babe. Oh, we were supposed to get up. Don't forget about me. Look. Y'all know how it goes. I watch this stuff all day long. You were supposed to call me. Oh, haven't heard from you in a while. And the women are just making all these comments. I'm like, dang, dude, how many women are you talking to? How many women are you entertaining? For all these women to feel like they have some type of personal connection with you. You are a community dude. I'm not even going to say what I want to say. But he a community dude. Everybody got a little piece of him. Right, Nyjah. Everybody got a little piece of him. And these be the same dudes with all the muscles and they all sexy and they're tall. And these be the same dudes all the women going crazy over. All the women looking at like, oh my God, he's so fine, girl. Ooh. And when he inbox you or you inbox him, don't get it twisted. I know what y'all be doing. Y'all be initiating and you inbox him and he takes you up on that interest that you're showing, and next thing you know, you guys go meet up. Ain't even a date. Y'all end up paying the bill for these dudes. Oh, I got it. Trying to impress somebody. Okay, nobody's impressed. You're no different than all the other girls he's tricking off. No different. So yeah, they're cheaters. And everything about them, yet to me, after all the years of doing what I do, all I see is cheater. I told my husband, I'm about to start a thing with my husband called Ask a Husband. Because one of the things I notice is even with all of these relationship experts, right? All these male relationship experts. Have you guys ever stopped to realize how many of them are not married? I'm just asking. You ever stop and realize that so many of these men that have all these millions of women following them, buying their books, buying their products, doing everything, they're not married. And remember how I said last night that I was like, I'm suspicious of any good, decent man who's saying he's such a wonderful guy and you haven't picked someone, because men like that have their pick. They're not like my matchmaking clients. They're not like the men who can't figure it out. They're not the men that struggle with self-esteem or just, you know, not knowing who they are, or they're socially awkward. That's not those men. So to me, when I'm saying, I've known you for years. And I'm not throwing stones, girls. I'm not. But I'm asking you to really get smart about this. That I'm saying, I told my husband, I'm about to just brand some things with him because people need to hear from men like him. He don't even really want to do it. He ain't even that into it because he's into all his other stuff. But I'm like, it's needed. Ask a husband, not no community dude, not no single relationship expert. No, ask a husband what he thinks about your relationships, what he thinks about dating. Ask him some questions so he can give you some honest, brotherly, good man of God advice, so he can talk to you the way he would your sister. If you were his sister, or you're his daughter, or if you were his niece, or you were his cousin, because he's got skin in the game, because he loves you. What's the advice you would give to a woman in your family, a young woman who needs to know what's going on out here, right? Because these men are just saying what women want to hear, but they're not telling you the truth. Right? The housewives of everywhere aren't even housewives, but people be listening to them. Exactly. So I'm about to do a thing with him called Ask a Husband. Because it's like at the end of the day, honey, what you guys need to start doing is wisen up. Use your wisdom and your discernment and your God-given abilities to apply it to men. Right. Renee says with these dating experts, it's almost like, why aren't they practicing what they are preaching? Point given, right? Dana says, does your husband have other married guy friends that would do it too? Maybe he would if other men were involved. He's going to do it, Dana. He's going to do it. Yeah, he's going to do it. And he could even have other married men be guest speakers. That's a great idea. I'm going to incorporate that to incorporate some other married men. Ask a husband. Ask a man who's in love with his wife and is faithful and loyal and loving and loves God and lives a righteous life and is responsible and real and who's been through some things. My husband's been divorced. He's been through all kinds of stuff. And those are the kind of men you need to hear from. The good men who have been crapped on by women. The good men, because they go through the same things we go through. But so often what we're doing is we're dealing with the not so good men, but then we're painting the picture like that's everybody. And that's not fair. That's not all men. It's just that the really, really good men are not all up on social media. They're not all up in, they're not writing books, right? They're not verbal and vocal and visual. They're somewhere just working hard and taking care of their families. So you don't even really know how to recognize a good man because the really, really like visual and people, the people you're seeing all the time, the men that are in the forefront are these community dudes. I'm being nice, right? So you don't even realize, dang, I've gotten so accustomed to these type dudes. I think that's good dude. That's not good dude. You don't know enough good men to be able to set that correct standard to understand what it looks like, sounds like, everything. So I'm going to help my husband get this stuff going because he needs to do it. He really does. So anyway, do all men cheat? No. But be careful, girls, because a lot of you have a tendency to choose cheaters. I want you to practice this. When you're online, when you're on social media, first of all, I have a thing. If a man's money, Moni says exactly, the good men are handling their business. They don't have time to be all up on social media somewhere, all up trying to be front and center with things. I say this all the time. The men you see, if a man is on social media a lot, and it is not directly linked to his business or his money, there's a problem. There's a problem. He's not, and if he's single, if he's not in a stage of life where he's really looking to settle down. Believe me, girls, no matter what he's saying, they know how to say the right things. But if they always post in something, and it can be really slick. I even said this on Lisa's post about that dude. They're really slick with it. They can even use comedy. They can use funny posts, but they know women love to laugh, love funny things. And the women will come on and they're commenting and they're interacting, right? But it's still attention. It's still that. And you ever notice when a man really falls in love and he really gets in a committed relationship, how all of a sudden he ain't on social media as much? You ever notice that? That all of a sudden you don't see as many of those posts anymore. He's not doing that. The only reason he was doing that is because the good men will eventually get off. They're not trying to keep attracting all that attention when they're in a committed relationship. Why? They don't need it anymore. But previously they were looking for a woman. They get on and get off. But if a man is always, in other words, chronically single, a serial bachelor, always on social media, cheaters, husbands who are on social media posting, getting lots of comments and attention. You didn't hear from me. I'm just saying. There's tendencies, and they'll show you these things from the very beginning. So some tips for this topic. If you're dating a man or you're getting to know men and they fall into one of those career categories, don't get mad at me, get mad at the facts. Okay? I'm just the messenger. You need to be going very slow if you find yourself talking to or dating a personal trainer, someone in entertainment, actors, musicians, writers, models, anybody falling into these categories where it actually requires them to be the spotlight and to get a lot of attention. You need to go slow. I'm not saying there's not exceptions, but I am saying there are tendencies. You need to be careful. Go slow, get to know him. Because do not go all quick, getting emotional like this is your future husband, and then you start ignoring all the red flags. Number 2, if you've been in consistent relationships where a man cheats, it's you. You're choosing the wrong men. You're not choosing the good men. And you're not going slow enough to get to know them to be able to discern and recognize the red flags that are there, the inconsistencies, the disappearances, accepting their lies. When you know in your gut he's lying about where he was at or what he was doing and you ignore it, that's your fault. He's showing you he's a liar. He's showing you he's a cheater. He's showing you the inconsistencies. He's telling you, when you begin to hear patterns in his history, that it's the same thing, one after the other, that it's been the same thing over and over with each woman he's been with, not just once, patterns. If that you hear that in his history, don't think you're going to be the exception. That's him. That's who he is. It's patterns. Those are very difficult to change. Believe it or not, military men and doctors. Girls, do not shoot the messenger. Do not shoot the messenger. I'm just giving you fair warning. You need to go slow. Military men are part of a culture that creates a lot of cheating. Why, Rebecca? Because it's very difficult to have consistency in the military life when they're always being shipped off to here or there, and at this station, and then they're stationed somewhere else. It creates and breeds a situation where people cheat. Right, that's right, Moni. Even if they are good men, there is too much temptation in those professions. Proceed with extreme caution. That's right, Moni. And because there's also then a culture that you may not be aware of. There's a culture in the military where women cheat, men cheat, they're sleeping with each other. They don't even hardly consider it cheating because they're away from their wives or they're away from their husbands, and everyone's got needs. Right? And so they're stationed here, or they're over in Iraq, they're in Afghanistan, and you're away from your partner for long periods of time. It breeds cheating. Well, over time, those become habits to where even now when you're not being shipped off here and there, when you're at home, now you've created some really bad tendencies and habits that you're not used to only being with one person. And it's very, very difficult. Are they good people? Yes, they can be very good people, but they've got bad habits. The same thing with personal trainers and all these other things we're talking about. Is that literally it's tendencies and habits that get built over the years from having the opportunities and giving into it and then forming these habits and patterns. Adonica says, oh geez, newest suitor is a pilot changing careers into cardiology. Right. It's hard. People who travel a lot, like you're saying, pilots, the reason I said doctors. I've been in matchmaking dating for years, girls. People don't understand, especially if they're not in private practice and they work at big hospitals. There's a culture in hospitals that a lot of ordinary people would not be aware of, because honestly, doctors and nurses and staff and all of that, there's this whole little soap opera that's playing out inside of hospital culture. And a man's going to have to be really principled to not fall into those patterns that hospital culture creates. Nurses are sleeping with doctors. The doctors are sleeping with the administrators. There's just a soap opera, everyone's sleeping with each other type culture in hospitals. I mean, it's just the things I've begun to learn over the years, girls. I'm just giving you my insight. So don't be so impressed that he's a doctor or a pilot, right? Because you have to be careful that they don't have a character flaw, that they've created some really bad habits over the years because of opportunity, options, and temptation. I'm just being real, girls. We need a video on dealing with shy good guys. Oh, that would be a great video. Great video. Lucretia says, yes, my friend's brother has a child in the Philippines, Illinois, and maybe even Guam. Right. Exactly, Nija. Makes sense. They spend so much time at the hospital and not at home. Exactly. Exactly. It's hard. It's really hard, girls. So the problem is not that all men are cheaters. I'm going to wrap up. The problem is that a lot of men that you would probably be the most impressed with, back to the lust of the eye, the appearance of things, when you're not basing things on your values and intellect and character, you're not basing things on who a man is. He raised his daughter as a single father, though. That's great. That's wonderful. So just make sure you take the time to get to know him and do the vetting and qualifying, Adonica. Don't fall in too fast. So a lot of the time what we're doing, some of the men that we're the most attracted to, good. That's right, Adonica. Ask questions, vet him, qualify him. Remember, you're a catch, because at the end of the day, sometimes what we do with some of these men who are the most attractive, the men we're most attracted to tend to have some things going on for them that make them the most attractive men. And we tend to then, what I find with women, I even see this with my premium coaching clients, we'll be in their profile and we're looking at men, and we'll come across a profile of a man and, that's right, you're the prize. And he's a doctor, or he's got a nice body, or he's this, or he's that. And I can feel my client get intimidated when we're even just looking at his profile. But like, he's one of those it guys. And you, as a woman, it's easy for us to start feeling intimidated. Like, oh my God, he's such a catch. No, remember, you're a catch. You're the prize. No matter who he is, you have to take your time. And some of the things, like I say, that attract us to the cheaters are because the cheaters tend to be the most attractive men, or the most influential men, or the most rich men, the most powerful men. That's what attracts us to them, is because they will have something going for them that makes them really attractive, whether it's physical or their career or their, like I say, their financial well-being or whatever it is. There's something attracts us to them, but these tend to be the men that are predominantly the cheaters. So charismatic and charming, back to like the entertainers, right? The personal trainers are super gorgeous. The actors are really gorgeous. They're really cute. They're charming. They know the right things to say. This is how we fall in with these type of guys. And they tend to be the cheaters. So see how this could be really hurting us as women, especially good women, because we're following kind of some tendencies to be attracted to certain types of men. But those are the men who are predominantly cheaters. And so at the end of the day, we now want to say all men are cheaters. But no, all men aren't cheaters. It's just the men we tend to choose will tend to be cheaters. The men we're most attracted to tend to be cheaters because we're not really giving the good guys a lot of opportunity. Okay, so I hope this answered the question. You guys know I always talk too much, but I was planning on coming on like for 5 minutes and I'm on here forever. So anyway, I love you girls. This is for, I forget her name. I've got to tag her. She's asked this question, are all men cheaters? So I came in to answer the question. So just remember, there's really, really good men. And we've got to get really a lot better at choosing the good men so that we stop getting hurt by all the cheaters. I love you girls. Talk to you soon.